Hi there. Welcome to Inner Power Training. I'm Rebecca. Today, I want to share with you some information about spiritual awakening. Why do I share this information? Because I'm telling you, it's like day and night. Once you have your spiritual awakening, you shift into a more expanded consciousness, a more at peace sense of self, because you understand and you get it that you're not just trapped in your mortal body, you are an infinite being. I was stuck before I had my spiritual awakening, even though I was living a really, you know, kind of nice life as a stewardess, working for a major airline, working with fabulous people, pilots that love their jobs and women that were like sisters because we were all having a blast traveling around, staying in great hotels, eating great food, going out with interesting people all the time. It was really a nice lifestyle. I was living on Belvedere Island out in California after moving there from first I lived in Chicago, downtown, had a blast. That's where I met my first spiritual teacher who taught me how to use my imagination to visualize and manifest. Then I moved to New York City, and lived in several locations there where I had more big aha moment experiences. My higher self was guiding me. I realize that now when I look back. My higher self or the extraterrestrials or Jesus or whoever is running the show, depending on your consciousness, by the way, was guiding me to move, to meet people, to, be a stewardess so that I could travel and experience the world. But I was still feeling very stuck when I was living in Marin County, trapped in my body. I manifested a bad diagnosis, and then I got unstuck. I had what they call a spiritual awakening. My crown chakra opened up. I felt connected to the universe. All the fear that I had about, dying and being sick and being trapped dissolved. But, you can ask yourself sometimes, are you having a spiritual awakening or are you having a psychotic breakdown? Because when I had that happen to me, I've told you before, I wasn't a drug user. I've never been very good at using even pharmaceutical drugs. They always have a different effect on me. But I had this thing happen where I woke up from the dream that I was living in, trapped in my body. And for 3 days, I was in this higher realm of consciousness where nothing was the same. I didn't feel like the same person. I didn't relate to anything the same way. It was good, but it was also difficult because I had to deal with people that just seemed kind of flat to me after that, or I could see through intuitively the games that people play, the mechanicalness of the humans. And if you stay in that state, you might end up in a mental institution. I've actually met people that had that happen. Fellow I knew when I was younger had a psychotic breakdown and went to a mental institution. But at the same time, he was writing sermons for his minister because he had such a spiritual breakthrough, but he couldn't function in the 3D world. He had to go away for a while. I met another woman when I was doing a book signing who told me about her niece being in a mental institution, even though the things that were coming out of her were absolutely amazing. Her insights, she was operating on a different level. That's why, spiritual teachers realize it's not for everyone. When I first had my awakening, I thought it happened to everyone. I thought everyone got this big aha moment, and I just was late, even though I was in my 20s when it happened. But I've since learned no, people get very caught up in the three-dimensional world of drama, family, money, career, appearances, fame. There's all kinds of things that can be diversions. And until you get to that place where none of it moves you, you're really not plugged in like that anymore. Um, and you're not impressed. You're just happy to be existing and living in a world where you can think and grow and operate, but you're not living in fear. The fear disappears because you no longer have a fear of death. Fear of death is the big driving force to everything fearful. I used to see it all the time on the airplanes. People that had tremendous fear of flying. What is it from? Fear of death. Once you overcome your fear of death, you don't have a fear of flying. Uh, and it even goes deeper than that. Once you really get plugged in, you realize you're protected and you won't get on that airplane, or you won't take that route with your car where there's a terrible accident, or you won't go on that vacation where, there's going to be a hurricane, or out of the blue, something crazy is going to happen. Your intuition, your higher self will guide you, and you'll be living in flow. That's to me what is some of the great benefits of a spiritual awakening. When you're plugged in, you're tuned in, you begin to listen to your inner guidance, and you feel safe because your inner guidance, your intuition is more accurate and more truthful and more relatable, and you can trust it more than anything else because your higher self knows where you're going. Sometimes you'll get an intuitive flash about it, or you'll hear a voice, or you'll have a dream, or you'll just know what you need to know. If you get my courses, you will begin to understand how these things work because that's what I put into them. My Metaphysics Made Easy course, I put out there a few years ago with Udemy, and it has a lot of really good information in there about how you can use metaphysics and spirituality to heal yourself, to manifest, and to live in flow. And then I've got the Mega Manifestation Method course, which is also out there in several books. Go to my website, rebeccatripp.com, and you'll see what I have to offer. There's nothing better than waking up, because once you do, you're living a much more interesting existence. You're not trapped anymore. And if you're feeling a lot of anxiety and fear and stress, that's your job, is to transform it into happiness, peace, prosperity, connectedness, living in flow, and being on purpose. You came here for a purpose. Our job is always to try to figure out what that purpose is so we can align ourselves properly with all the right things that we're supposed to be doing while we're here. And it makes life much more interesting, I promise.